Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at your weekly forecast, which is going to be spanning from the 23rd, which would be today, all the way until the 1st of March, which will be next Sunday. And then of course we're going to be putting out our next weekly forecast next Sunday. And we do these every single Sunday so that you guys can get a feel for what your week should be like, and so you can kind of plan out your week. Now this is going to be going over your temperature anomaly forecast as well as your precipitation anomaly forecast, and at the end of the video, your special event segment where you are going to be looking at some storm systems and big temperature differences that are going to be occurring throughout this week. Now, let's get right into it here with your temperature anomaly or your precipitation anomaly forecast. Now, we do have some two areas of below average. We have one there for the western United States, where I don't think you're going to get as many systems to come through. I think most of your systems this week are actually going to come through this corridor right here, and it's going to be dumping its most precipitation within this circled area right here. So areas in the southern United States that is in the second shade of below average, in the second area of below average, won't be seeing as much precipitation, as well as areas on the western United States, because you won't be getting as much moisture coming in from the Pacific. You don't have that activated Pacific jet stream. Your jet stream is going kind of something like this right now. So you are getting most of your systems to ride through this area and produce snowfall to the north and rainfall to the south, of course, and that's why most of these two areas are going to be seeing below average precipitation for the western United States as well as the southern and central United States. Now, let's get into your next layer of below average. We have a moderately below average here, where it is going to be more noticeable over southern Oregon, western Nevada, and northern California, where I do expect you to be more below average, and I think you're going to get less precipitation than many of these areas over parts of northern California, western Nevada, and southern Oregon, and it's definitely going to be a lot more noticeable if you do live in those areas. Now, we do have a shade of above average here over parts of Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and into western Illinois, where I do expect you to get a little bit of precipitation. It's not going to be too noticeable, but on paper it should be above average, and especially because you are going to get a winter storm that's going to be tracking through this area, potentially bring 6 to 10 inches of snowfall, and I'll be talking about that on Monday, and I wasn't able to talk about that system because I did put out my spring and March forecast on Friday and Saturday, so you can go check those out. Those are on my channel, but those are the reasons I didn't cover it so far, but I am going to be covering it on Monday, and I'll most likely be coming up with my snowfall and rainfall forecast map for this event, and I think you could reach 6 to 10 inches in some of these areas, and it is going to be quite a potent storm. It's just not going to be as widespread as some of these other systems, and that's going to give you quite a bit of precipitation over parts of the Midwest and central United States. Now, let's get into your next area of where we're going to be talking about temperature anomalies. Now, we do actually have above average temperatures over parts over the north central United States, through the northern Rockies, northwest, and then through the desert southwest, where I am expecting slightly above average conditions. We also have another area there for the mid Atlantic and northeast, where I am expecting slightly above average conditions. Now, it is going to be quite warm over these areas, and especially as we add more layers, you'll see where it's going to be the warmest. But I think it is definitely going to be quite warm this week for many areas, except for really the central and southern United States. I think it's going to stay a little bit chilly for you guys. Now, let's add your next area here, and this is going to be your above average area, your moderately above average, and this is going to be for parts of northeastern Montana through northwestern North Dakota, and through parts of southern Arizona, western Nevada, into southern Oregon, and the entire state there of California. I am expecting you to be moderately above average, and you could average 4 to 6 degrees above average for the entire week over some of these areas. So I was kind of contemplating putting even a well above average there, but I didn't think it was warranted. I don't think it's going to be that warm, but it's definitely going to be a very, very mild week over parts of California, Nevada, Arizona, and into Oregon there. Now, here's where I'm expecting below average conditions over parts of the southeast, south central, through parts of the Ozarks and Tennessee Valley, and then into parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, where I do expect slightly below average conditions, and we have multiple shades here of below average. Now, here's your let's go back here. Here's your moderately below average over parts of the southern Rockies through the south central, southeast states, and really the Gulf states as well, where I do expect you to be moderately below average. It's definitely going to be more noticeable than just that first shade. And I think after this winter storm comes through, you could actually have a chance of some Arctic air coming back on the backside. This storm system is really going to allow some Arctic air to really come down. And for the first time this winter, or the second time this winter, because we did have that Arctic blast through the Dakotas and Minnesota earlier on last week, I think you are going to have, for pretty much the second time this winter only, I think you're going to have a Arctic connection where you actually get Arctic air to be funneled south, and it is going to be 15 to 20 degrees below average, and you are going to have this flow from eastern Canada that's going to be pushing southward. That'll allow that cold air to be linked up with the cold air in the Arctic, and that'll really help enhance this really cold air. Now, we even have a well below average area, a third shade of below average over southern Texas, southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and Alabama, as well as northwestern Florida, where I am expecting well below average conditions in terms of temperatures, and it's going to be just a very cold week. You're going to have about 4 days where it's 15 to 20 degrees below average, so it is going to be pretty chilly for your standards right around the Gulf Coast area, where I do expect some well below average conditions as far as temperatures are concerned. Now, let's start getting into your special event segment of the video, where I'm going to show you where you could be dealing with some storm systems pass through, as well as we're going to also be talking about an Arctic blast, which could come through for the eastern United States later on this week. So our first special event is going to be the snowfall threat, which is going to be impacting parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, and as well the interior Northeast. Although for the interior Northeast, I think it's going to be more confined to those higher elevation regions. So interior Maine, northern New Hampshire, and Vermont, as well as northern upstate New York. But as you get into the Great Lakes and Midwest, I think it's going to be a little bit more widespread, and of course, not any mountain ranges in the Midwest or Great Lakes, so it's just going to be really on that northwest side over parts of the UP of Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, through maybe even northern Missouri there, and getting into the northern half of Illinois, and through Wisconsin and Michigan. Could be expecting some pretty good snowfall, and I put parts of Ohio, northern Pennsylvania in there, as well as even parts of central Illinois and Indiana and northern Missouri there, because I do think this does have the potential to trend south. The Canadian and the European have this more south. Well, the Canadian has this much further south. The European has this kind of right in the middle between the GFS, which is farther to the north, and the Canadian, which is farther to the south. The NAM 12 cam model also doing its own thing. So really, we have all these models bouncing around. So I wanted to cover a broad area, and I'm not saying that all of these areas are going to get snow out of this event, and I'll be covering that tomorrow in my video a little bit more in depth, but I do think the threat is there, at least for some of these areas, to see some snowfall out of this event. Now, let's get into your next special event, and this is going to be an event also for the snowstorm. It is going to be traveling from the 24th, which would be tomorrow, all the way until the 28th, which would be Friday. Now, let's go to your next special event, and this would be the potential for Arctic air to intrude as we get to the 27th, which would be Thursday, all the way until the 1st of March, which would be next Sunday, where I am expecting the potential for some Arctic air to intrude. Now, we talked about this when we were talking about temperature anomalies, and I really think it's going to impact a lot of these areas for the pretty much everywhere east of really that spine of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Everywhere east of there is going to be expecting some potential for some Arctic air that could intrude, again, from Thursday through Sunday, and maybe even a little bit beyond that. Now, it's going to have this polar connection. For the first time, you're really going to get this eastern Canada split between warm air on western Canada, cold air in eastern Canada, and that cold air in eastern Canada is going to link up finally with that wrapped up polar vortex that you have, and that's been sitting there for a good 8-9 weeks there. and it's actually going to strengthen, which is going to be a bad sign if you want cold air, because strengthening in the polar vortex usually means that it's going to stay stuck up in the polar vortex and or in the polar regions. So you actually have record sea ice being reported in the Arctic regions. So it's been a very cold winter up there, but it's been a pretty mild winter as you get down into the United States, and that's all because you haven't gotten really any frequent intrusions of cold air where you can get that polar flow to really just stay over the eastern United States. And I think this is going to happen for a few days here as you get into past Thursday. It's going to really set in place. But then I think as you get into March again, it's gonna warm back up. But I think you're gonna have that weakening of the polar vortex a little bit more in March, so it's probably going to average out a little bit below average for you guys in March. Now, that Arctic air is going to be funneling through into parts of the eastern United States, and you could get 10 to 20 degrees below average temperatures. And I'll definitely, most likely, put out a video on this as we get, as this winter storm passes, and then we get a little bit of time where we can put out a video on the Arctic air that is going to be intruding for early or late this week. Now, that is going to wrap the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when I do upload, because I do upload these videos daily, and this is my 55th video in a row uploading this daily. So I've been trying to keep up with the daily trend, so hopefully you guys are enjoying the daily videos, and I'll continue to put them out. Anyways, guys, that was Eli the Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.